What's happening, YouTube? My name is Immortal Coil. I'm a martial artist, I'm a musician, I'm a philosopher, and I'm a seeker of spiritual enlightenment. And I'm a lifelong Star Wars fan. Today we're going to talk about our princess, Princess Leia Organa, Leia Skywalker. Now, before I dig into this, I want to say rest in peace, Carrie Fisher. I'm sure her immortal soul is off to the next adventure, and hopefully she'll be reborn as the Avatar in the Fire Nation. Leia Organa, we learned, is the daughter of the Chosen One, and shortly after her birth in Episode 3, she was secreted away to Bail Organa and Queen Organa of Alderaan, where, much like her mother, she was well educated, obviously a woman of breeding, and entered into the political arena, and served as the senator of Alderaan from about the age of 14 in the Imperial Senate, which we know from Episode 4 that the Imperial Senate was a farce. And indeed, in Episode 3, they discussed how the facade of people's participation in the Empire had to be maintained by the Senate. Now, here's what's interesting. As smart and as sophisticated as teenage Leia Organa was, you look at her twin brother, Luke, stuck on some backwater desert planet, the armpit of the universe, Tatooine, farming moisture and going to Tashi Station to pick up power converters, and bullseyeing womp rats in his T-16 back home. Yeah, that's exciting. Probably got sand everywhere. It's rough and irritating. Yeah, which kind of parallels Anakin's slave origins. So you have those parallels there. Now here's what's funny. When Episode 4 starts, it's actually Princess Leia's story that Luke and Han eventually get thrown into. So she's the catalyst. She's the one with the plans. They're the ones who are trying to get her droid back to her, or back to her father. And yeah, and they're swept up into her tornado. So we really owe it all to the princess. And before I get too far into this topic, I want to say that Princess Leia is the supreme example of a strong woman in cinema. And they did it in a way that wasn't forcing politics down your throat. They didn't say, like, open your mouth and take this. No, she just was who she was. She didn't have to explain who she was. She announced herself by her presence. And it's almost that thing where, and that's that elusive thing that the Duck of Death in Unforgiven was referring to as the divine right to rule, the regal authority, and how his queen had that, and the president, fuck you, Bob, didn't. And, you know, I agree with Gene Hackman. He was an asshole, and he needed the shit beat out of him, but Clint Eastwood's going to come and blow your face off, and he'll see you in hell. Just like Han will, if you don't open those doors and let me go find my friend. So, the real main meat of this post is about Leia's force sensitivity. Okay? Now, in the expanded universe, depending on which novel you read, Leia trained to become a Jedi Knight. with her brother. Okay, and you know, had many adventures, and fully realized herself as basically what Yoda and Ben were talking about on Dagobah, as you know, as Luke flew away to get his hand cut off. That boy was our only hope. No, there is another. Okay. But then we get to episode 8, The Last Jedi. And we finally got to see in canon Leia's Force potential. No, Ryan. No. That's not how you do it. Matter of fact, there's several things wrong with that scenario. Okay? Now, if you're in outer space and sub-zero temperatures, you would instantly freeze, and the vacuum would suck out all of your air. And they try to say, like, oh, she created a force bubble. And apparently the force bubble was M-class and had heat and atmosphere and, like, everything she needed to Superman her way back to the ship. Which also would be impossible. Okay? Now, according to physics, and this is science, okay, the ship, even though it's moving at sublight speeds, is still probably moving at hundreds of thousands of miles per hour, or kilometers per hour if you're in Europe listening to this. So, if she's ejected out and she's just this tiny little particle compared to the mass of the ship is moving. And she'll be moving too, but not at the same rate of speed. So for her to Mary Poppins her way back to the ship, to that one place that she, like, came out of, she'd have to, like, Superman hundreds of thousands of kilometers per hour, which for an untrained force sensitive would be nigh impossible, even if you're the son of the daughter of the chosen one. And I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's compare that to Luke, okay? Even when Luke was untrained, even when Luke had, like, just like a flea's asshole worth of training, all he could barely muster was pulling Anakin's lightsaber out of the snow and cutting off that dude's arm before he became the next pile of bones, okay? Which I admit is not an easy task. You know, telekinesis is like a motherfucker. Don't lightly engage in flirtation with it. But that was like Luke having, like, a tiny bit of training from Ben. And, you know, we don't know if he communed with the spirit before that scene in Hoth. Maybe it's in the comic books or some novel somewhere. But Leia, you know, because she's a badass woman, she is better at everything than all the guys. Because all the women are, especially in episode 8. Yeah. Her best friend is purple hair. They know the plan. They're like in on it. Poe doesn't need to know. No. Yeah, so send your friends to Casino Planet. Go make sure James Bond is winning at the card game. Go find Benicio del Toro, and yeah. So that's why you fucked up, Ryan Johnson. Sure, Leia's force sensitive. I think that we all agree about that. But how you chose to manifest her force power was very inappropriate. Okay? Now, I'm not going to sit here and just bitch and not offer a possible solution. So, here's here's how I would have done it. If I was the director or the screenwriter, I don't even want to direct one of those things. Geez, that's a lot of pressure. Number one, hire the best writers possible. But if I were to manifest a hint that Leia could tap into her Force sensitivity, I would have her come out of like some political argument, something that, you know, like maybe the Senate wasn't listening to her, or her comrades in arms weren't listening to her, and she gets into her office and she's just like pissed off, because you know Leia gets pissed off. She's a firecracker. It's probably why Han liked her. And she runs into her office, and maybe somebody's there, and they're like, "Oh my God, princess or general or whatever phase of life she's in, what's going on?" And she's just like mad, and she's like slamming stuff, and then like one final impact, and stuff starts shaking, and it's like, okay, calm down, princess, calm down. And nothing gets broken, nothing gets like knocked off the shelf, but like shit's shaking, and she doesn't even know what's going on. She's just like mad, and it's kind of like a manifestation of Anakin's anger. You know, Luke was always a little more serene. True, he did have anger, but he learned how to control it. Leia more freely gave in to that aggressive tendency, but because she was not Force trained, she never necessarily gave herself to the dark side. The other route you could have gone was, instead of Rey flying to Octo, maybe Rey and Leia fly to Octo. Because let's face it, Episode 7, the opening crawl, General Leia is desperately searching for her brother. And they finally find a map, and what does she do? She stays behind on fake Yavin. If you're desperately searching for your brother and you find a map and you know exactly where he is, wouldn't you like fly as fast as you could to him? Nah, she's gonna just shove Chewie aside and give Rey a hug and say, "Go get him." No. I would have had Leia fly out with Rey. You know, it's like one of those things. We found the map to Skywalker. Great. Get out of my way. And she, "No, I'm going with you." Okay. And hug Chewie. You know, that's... Chewie's basically your step brother, or your brother-in-law, or however that works out, right? Your husband has just been murdered by your son. This is the next closest person to that man, and you just like hug Rey. Fuck, Chewie. I am sorry, brother. You don't get a medal. You don't get a hug from the princess. You have to like be guilt-tripped out of eating porg. They really threw you under the bus, buddy. Sorry, man. So on Octo, Leia gets off the ship, and Rey, you know, wants to train. And here's where that conflict could have happened. No, Rey, I'm not going to train you. I'm going to train her. And Leia's like, "Me?" And he's like, "Yeah. We're the last hope for the Resistance or the Rebellion or whatever the fuck this is this time. I found the first Jedi Temple. I got all the books in there. I got the Journal of Wills. I got How to Be a Jedi for Dummies. You know, come on in. You know, I'll cook you some porg. We can eat some, you know, porg stew. We can drink some giant sea lactating beast milk. We can talk about old times." And then Rey could be like, "I want to be a Jedi too." And he could be like, "I don't even know who you are. I found your map." Okay, great. You brought my sister to me. And maybe Leia doesn't have the aptitude, or maybe she doesn't have the desire, but she tries. And then Rey can either be watching in secret or, you know, standing off to the side like benched. And Leia gets pissed, and then Luke's like, "You can't get pissed. You can't do that." And then Rey does something like in the background, and Luke goes, "Huh?" And then slowly he starts to see that she has the potential, so he starts training her. Okay, I would have been more into that notion than what we got, because that shit doesn't make sense, Ryan Johnson. You can't just make one draft and turn it in and go like, "Yep, that's it. I'm done." No, you. There's a reason that medical and scientific texts are peer reviewed, and that's to make sure that it's not full of shit and that it's not biased. Okay? Now you can argue that art is the vision of the artist, but with something as generation spanning as Star Wars, you have to make sure that your characters are taken care of and that your audience is taken care of. Because you know what happens if your audience isn't taken care of? We're not going to go see your movies. How's Solo doing? It's coming out, what, like in a couple days? Okay. It'll probably have like a good first day. Then your sales are going to drop off. And then Disney's going to be shitting their pants. And guess who's not going to have a job? I'll have a job. Will you?